I've never had to do a video like this, and it's 100% Cyber's fault. This is part 2. Part 2! To the 3-hour fucking long prediction of Madara versus Aizen.
Oh,
Fix your
Wait,
mistakes,
Nemesis, give us
Cyber.
Nemesis, at least give us credit. We stayed on topic.
But at what
Right,
cost?
so, I made a fatal mistake and really undersold Aizen's capabilities. Hacks-wise, I mean, not so much, AP.
It's your fault.
Or
I mean, we agreed. I was gonna do Madara. That's what we agreed on. That's your fucking fault.
Hey, you didn't remember some of the stuff from Modern, and even after we were done, we still had to do an extension on Izanagi.
Who cares?
Anyway, I need to bring up everything Aizen brings to the table and do it as quickly as possible because I undersold this guy. So, I guess I'll start with the most controversial amongst like Bleach fandom, which is Soul Crush. So I mentioned Soul Crush briefly in the other video, but I guess I should go more in depth really quick. Soul Crush is just exerting your spiritual pressure to crush your opponent, quite literally, as it like paralyzes them and affects their soul. Used on weak enough targets, and it like detonates them, like Yamamoto detonated a bunch of hollows, or just flat out leaves them dead. And stronger variants can like disintegrate bodies, like Aizen does to normal people, or Yuha did to Arankars. The issue is, like we mentioned in the other one, it's usually on weaker opponents, but there is a catch. There is a technique used by Yami, Espada 10, who secretly Espada 0, that rips out the soul of the target by like just him sucking in air, and he kills hundreds of people doing this in the world of the living. And Tatsuki, or Hime's normal human friend who has barely any spiritual energy, like minuscule, resists it, and then later when Yami approaches her, he just flat out leaves her paralyzed, and as Ulquiorra says, she's slowly dying from his own soul crush. So the argument here is Yami's soul crush would upscale from his soul rip, since she could resist it, but she can't resist the soul crush, and that would scale to Aizen since his soul crush would be exponentially stronger. Contradicted by her later being able to survive his own soul crush, even though he was suppressed, it should still be exponentially above Yami. She was able to survive it for a while. And it's more so attributed that the reason she survived, like all of this, would be like quote unquote having a strong soul, which is extremely vague. It's never really properly defined in Bleach. So while you could argue potentially the soul crush as like an ability could potentially be stronger than a soul rip of hundreds of souls, I think there's just not enough to do a direct correlation. I think what you can argue is that per Bleach mechanics, a strong soul resists something like soul rip, like Gonzui. So this would give Aizen even further protection from Madara's soul hacks, like him ripping out the soul with the Renning gun and stuff like that. Okay, so Hado 90 has a translation, fan translation, saying that it reduces the target to atoms. And while this is not stated in the Viz, as like the kanji can be translated to like dust as well, there is like a supporting visual feat for it being potentially atomization. In the War Arc, when he uses it like as an AoE, it like destroys all the rubble to the point like nothing's left, not even dust, and like some of the vice captains are like, "What the heck?" And all the like they even note that the debris is completely gone. And after it's used, you have like Urahara stating it's like even stronger than the one that Aizen used on Ichigo. So if it is indeed atomization, Aizen used it on himself. He tanked it, which would give him defense against like atomization. But that one's one of the more debatable ones. Okay, so Soul Crush would kill all of Madara's summons. They don't scale to him physically, except maybe the wood, the wood dragon. But that's not really a summon. That's more of just a jutsu. Let's see. So Aizen semi-resists Power Null in the aspect that it's stated in the Spirits novel, which is canon. 13 Blades confirms it's canon, establishing that the characters in it are canonical. That the seals on his body are supposed to completely suppress the ability of his Zanpakuto, yet he was able to use his Zanpakuto abilities passively on Yuha when they first met underground, and he can later use it after he removed a few of the seals himself. That's the other argument. Once one of his seals was removed, just through raw energy, he was able to remove the other seals. So it's like semi-resistant.
What's another scene where like one of the he was gonna be freed, and then some guy removed one of the seals, and he could move his entire body.
Shunsui removed one seal, and then basically after doing that, Aizen could move his body and was able to remove other seals as well, just off of his power. So while he's not able to remove,
are you gonna take care of the other seals?
Well, he could have potentially to some degree, but I think this is just establishment that Aizen kind of like semi-resists something like Power Null, since that's what the seals do, since they nullify Zanpakuto. He was sealed by Urahara's Hado, but that was a specially designed one for him, and all the other like Bakudo sealing that we used on him all failed. So I do think he has good showings somewhat against sealing and Power Null to some extent. There is, of course, him resisting
the spiritual energy, though. Just making sure, right? Because
potentially you could argue that the seals do that to an extent, but it's more like the seals keep the Reiatsu to him, and so does like his chair.
Madara should still resist it because of the Ten Tails absorbing ninjutsu.
Potentially, you could make the argument Aizen could stretch out his Reiatsu far like beyond his, like, if it's just him with the seals, we saw that he's capable of using techniques beyond his like immediate proximity. So the seals are failing in their job, but the chair is capable of keeping all of his energy to him. So beyond that, we have Hado 99, which is really interesting. I didn't give it. Hado 99 is. I did not give Hado 99 the credit it deserves. Basically, it's 5 energy dragons he makes by breaking down matter in the area and turning into raw energy, and also like ripping energy from like, the world itself, like its way line, or it's still like specific line of energy. So, against Madara, it should bypass his like defense against spiritual energy right off the bat, because it's more of a natural energy attack than it would be spiritual energy. Depending on the environment, they're obviously not going to be like if they fight in the Soul Society, it obviously would be more spiritual. But if they fought on the Earth, which I figure would be where they fight, it would definitely be more natural. Beyond that, it also has the properties of, like I said, breaking apart matter. It doesn't affect organic beings, seemingly, but it can also break down energy. So the original argument was it would break down the Susanoo, but luckily, Madara has a statement that his Susanoo, when it was used on Kurama, was specifically designed to deal with Hashirama's own absorption abilities and sealing abilities. So it should be able to resist Hado 99's like ability to rip apart like energy in the environment. I'm not sure if the truth-seeking orbs themselves would resist this, like, since they're not living, but you could probably argue they wouldn't be affected. Madara would just protect them in his own Susanoo, if it even could affect them. Hado 99 also should upscale from Aizen's own physical AP, since the whole point of like using Hado 90 on Ichigo back when in their fight was his own physical strength wasn't like up to par. So I figured that a fully incantated Hado would be stronger, which he did affirm was. Hado 99 is supposed to be the strongest Hado, so if he fully incants it, it should upscale from his AP. We really can't quantify how much, but it would be stronger than his physical AP. Beyond that, like we briefly went on his regen, that it's like regenerated from half of his body in the manga. The anime kind of establishes that his entire body was destroyed, and they establish a few times, even in the novels and in the manga, like that the complete destruction of the body, or the Kanpaku, turns you into reishi scraps or particles. So that would give further affirmation that Aizen could at least regenerate from like either scraps of pretty much dust or particles themselves. So that's some.
It would be really funny if Madara had to counter that. TSO counter that, right?
I mean, I did mention that like the atomization properties like could
But
potentially be
TSOs are
countered.
more than that. Spatial hacks too.
Oh, so spatial. Well, spatial would be resisted by Aizen being point blank in his own like Kurutsugi, like a Hado 90, and he
TSOs
could.
just don't work. And so do TSOs just?
I'm
Don't
not
work
saying that. I'm
though?
getting to that. Hado 90. He also resists spatial and time in it from like crashing into the cleaner, right? Completely negating its effect to shoot him across the like time period. It like makes him arrive in the wrong place in the Soul Society, but it didn't affect him temporally. And it's stated in the data books to govern space and time. And it's also called like the administrator of space and time, and he's just completely unaffected by its temporal abilities and spatial. Um, the other thing that Aizen would have going for him, and this is a really dumb one, but I hate it. Um, the Infinite Tsukiyomi is stated by Tomi Rama to not be affecting him and the other Edo Tensei because they're dead. And this could be supported by a statement in the data book for the tree spread when Madara spreads a tree. It explicitly says in the data book that it's affecting only living beings to drain their chakra. So it could be very much affirmed that the Infinite Tsukiyomi only affects the dead, in which case
Which is dumb.
Aizen,
What do you mean
Stupid.
only?
Aizen-
What do you mean only affects the dead?
sorry, affects the living. Affects the living.
Cool.
It doesn't affect the dead.
You had all this
So-
time to prepare.
So that would mean Aizen is technically defined in Bleach as like a soul of the dead. You could try and, I guess not semantics, but like kind of try and get around this by saying, oh, Edo Tensei are like souls put in a vessel. Aizen is like a soul with organs or whatnot. But it's very clearly defined that like souls in Bleach are technically dead. Um, I would figure that this is probably gonna get somewhere around it. Probably could argue it makes like it's not narratively consistent for that to be the case because it's supposed to be just a super genjutsu, and we know that Edo Tensei are susceptible to genjutsu, both visual and auditory. So I don't know. I think it's just Kishimoto wanted to keep the Edo Tensei in because he wanted the Minato send off. He wanted the final talk between Hashirama and Madara, and he just couldn't think of a way to keep them in, so he just made it so that it doesn't affect the dead. It's dumb, and it could very well end up being negating the arguably what I liked as like my favorite part of the episode. What could be the it's perfectly thematic, but whatever.
Okay, but
Stupid
if Aizen is
technicalities.
technically dead, then that means when he walks into the battle, Madara automatically wins by that
There
technicality.
you go. Yeah, we didn't need any of this. This was all pointless.
This is all a
He's
waste of
already
time.
dead.
Aizen just by default is dead. This is called
Uh,
death battle.
Wouldn't that
Rule
mean
set.
like wouldn't that mean Danny Phantom should have lost?
Yes.
'Cause he's a ghost.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's why it's wrong. There you
That's
go.
why the episode's wrong.
Anyway, so I guess yeah. We already established he resists Kurotsugi, which is like like AP would scale to his own, so it's like planet level gravity manipulation. He was aiming to destroy the chair he was in, and it was like both of them tanked it, so he does resist that, which helps deal with the Chibaku Tensei. We already established if you're relative to the user, you can break out of a like with your own AP, like Momoshiki did or Naruto did with Pain. The only other thing, lastly, to go on would be like the keto list, and while it's quite large, I don't think I need to go over many. Most of them are like repetitive. They're just a bunch of like seals, like for example, like just a bunch of like hard light seals or like pillars being dropped. Not really gonna work too much with Madara, especially since he can swap out with his limbos. Like if a limbo gets hit, he can swap with it. Yeah, that's not really gonna help much. You could argue Madara might have transmutation via senjutsu, like Sage Chakra can turn people into stone. If they can't handle it, it's what killed one of the paths of pain when it was absorbing Naruto's chakra. Although that's mainly done, only shown via like chakra absorption. The only thing I can think of is like Hado 99, but Aizen isn't like absorbing the energy into his body. He's absorbing it into the construct. So I don't think the transmutation will come into play. You can also argue that like via all the stuff he's already immune or survives that the Soul Society has, that wouldn't be far-fetched. He could, like all of Mayuri's poisons or Soifon's death hacks or like the death hacks that Shunsui has with his Bankai. I mean, there's not, like, no transmutation ability is explicitly used on him, but it's not far-fetched. Yeah, so, like, the Ketos that matter, and that'll be it. Time stop we mentioned last time. So the other one that goes with that is like long distance teleportation. Like Aizen already has like limited teleportation of himself, but he can do an AoE teleportation technique. And he can also use these cloths that weirdly enough, like whatever he wraps it around, he can teleport to another point where there's cloths in the same position. I need to specify that like Data Book 3 like explicitly says Hado 54 is not existence erasure, it's just a heat technique. He has one that I don't think Madara might resist. You correct me, Phantom. Does Madara resist sleeping hacks?
Phantom? Well, I
Phantom
guess
is
Phantom doesn't. I guess
KO'd
Phantom
by-
doesn't resist sleeping hacks.
So, I
you killed her, you
figure he would
bastard.
I figure he would probably resist sleeping hacks with the Sharingan. It's a highly improbable Aizen would even use it because he has to put his hand in front of your face while using Hafuku to like use the technique, and that puts him at risk of dying at close range to
Just
Madara.
getting punched in the face. At that point, Aizen could really just punch Madara in the face if he manages to get that close. It'll probably do more. Or hit him with like any of his big attacks. That would probably do more than just go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. It's not going to work. Because like if he puts Madara to sleep, that just means he now has a chance to do something to him. But then if he was already close enough to do that, he should have just done that thing in the first place. It's just adding more unnecessary steps.
I mean, there's like Boogaloo 58, which like enhances his senses, but he already has really good senses. It's kind of useless considering he can sense stuff from other dimensions. That's what lets him fight the Limbos in the first place. Beyond that, there's like, he has like a barrier. Okay, so to establish that there's like this barrier that can like reflect attacks, but it's only ever stated, it's never shown. Probably like we can't prove that it can like reflect it. It's also a very low end Bakudo, so I assume it would probably be destroyed pretty easily. I think the last two that are really interesting is there's one that like just by calling its name like deactivates illusions in the vicinity, but they don't seem to be like illusions placed directly on the mind, but more like visual illusions on the area. Like when it was used by Shinji, he deactivated the other one I was going to mention, which is an illusion where you refract light in a certain position where it makes you invisible, and it also is supposed to hide your senses. Like, I assume that like Senjutsu would deal with that. There's like Honki, which is like an ability where you like negate other Keto with another one of equal force, opposite force, but I don't think this would translate to Jutsu. That would kind of be a no limits fallacy to say.
See, now we've gone full cyber, and now we're way past the list of things that we had to talk about.
Oh, no, we're done. We're just going to go to two things of equipment I lost a track of last time, and we're done. So, Aizen has the Caja Negacion, which is this, like,
The what?
small little thing.
Yeah.
Caja Negacion. It's,
Sounds
little, small... No, it's just like this little box thing that, like, if it's put near the target, it opens up, like, a dimensional cube of sorts and traps them in another dimension. Okay, that one sounds like it would be a really good win con, but the problem is it breaks down over time depending on the energy of the target. When used on Ulquiorra, it lasted I think only an hour. I think.
Wow.
And
Don't have
Madara
much
is
time
way.
left. Hurry up.
Madara is stated to be way strong. Well, not stated. Madara is stronger than Ulquiorra vastly by free. So he would be out of Caja Negacion way faster. The other one is.
I'm pretty sure he used like one-way calc of the Lanza del Rampango, which got like a ton. Pretty sure even then Madara's just still way stronger. So.
And the last one is the Ryatsu like it's a cloak that both Aizen and Urahara have that like completely hides their energy. Might be useful if he somehow makes distance, like it gets away a large distance from Madara and does
Just
something like a smoke screen.
invents the idea of distance.
Well, he would have to use something to get really far away. Maybe teleportate, like the teleportation stuff I just
Maybe
mentioned.
his
Like,
feet.
there's also like, I think there's a few like smoke keto that would be good for like, I guess making just. But I really don't think this would be a thing that he would use in combat. At most, he'd probably just use the whole thing that Momo does, which is like, not Momo. Okay, Momo from Bleach, which is like something that he should be very well capable of, which is like doing.
There's two.
Oh,
Wait, there's a Momo from Bleach as well as the Momo from Naruto?
As well as
Momo
the Momo
from
we
Bleach
know.
got stabbed by
and
Momo from
and
Bleach
the Momo
should
from My Hero and the Momo from Avatar.
Momo from Bleach should not be alive. She got stabbed in the chest like twice, once by Aizen and the other one accidentally by Toshiro.
Momo Discord
Oh
versus
my God.
Momo Bleach versus Momo Naruto versus Momo Atla versus
Momo
Momo
Battle
My Hero
Royale.
Academia.
Anyway, finishing this up. Momo shows that like multiple keto can be used at the same time, like Baku's the defensive and sealing, and attack ones like Hado's. Urahara does this as well. One of them like distorts space, and we already established that Aizen can distort space. And Madara is somewhat susceptible to spatial acts in the sense that like you know that the TSOs can be bent by like Mike the Night Guy, like the spatial properties of it. Like Madara himself survived, but again was like vastly damaged, so he might not be that immune or resistant to spatial.
More from just Night Guy hitting him really, really, really hard.
I mean, but the TSO literally bent, and he says that Spade Nick Space it doesn't resist the spatial carving properties of it, which honestly would probably be around the same level, if not inferior, to Kurotsugi's depiction of like gravity.
I think he just doesn't resist Mike Guy's foot.
Be fine, I think. It's just a TSO.
That pretty much covers the most thing. The ironic twist of him resisting the infinite Tsukiyomi is that we still don't have any solid evidence that he resists like regular Tsukiyomi. You can make an argument that like Shinji didn't actually mind hacks him because like a wound on Aizen that he left apparently is no longer there later on. The entire mind hacks thing where Aizen like adapted to a mind hex could have been him just mind hexing Shinji, in which case he would have zero evidence of having any resistance to mind hacks. Because while that was an anti-feat, it showed that he could adapt to mind hacks. No, really, Madara still takes the win, I think.
You can just cut him.
Madara takes the win basically via Izanagi, which there is no counter to still. Numbers advantage and Tsukiyomi still working. Madara should have Tsukiyomi. We don't have to do the full list. We don't have to do the full list. We did it last time.
TSOs could still potentially work.
I mean, the atomization thing, that it being superior to atomization. That might be the best thing.
We have finally done, right?
No more.
Anyway, I
I don't want Phantom to do full conclusion. I just wanted to say this.
I'm just saying.
Basically, if you get Aizen into the universal tier, which again I don't recommend.
You shouldn't. You never should.
Really good win. Soul Crush is a really good win con. If you think it upscales from Gonzui, that's a really good win con that Madara probably doesn't resist because Soul Hacks has worked on Naruto characters. The best example I can think of resisting was Naruto dealing with one Soul Rip, not like a Soul Rip that scales to hundreds. I don't think it scales. And then finally, like if you don't from the part 1, if you don't think the chakra like flow quote of like Mangekyo Sharingan bypassing that from the novels applies to, which I don't understand why you would. Kyoka Suigetsu would work, I guess, but I'm fairly confident it does hold weight, so Kyoka Suigetsu should
basically,
not work
if you have
on
any
Madara.
other questions, go watch the 3-hour-long goddamn video. There are no timestamps for it, because I can't timestamp it, because there's nothing to timestamp. It is just a long string of things.
I can probably find some time
You know what, Cyber, if you want,
for
you can go give me a list of timestamps, and there will be timestamps for video. There won't be timestamps for this one. I've only got like 4 minutes before I have to go do something else.
Alright, I'm done.
Oh, hey, we talked
And thank
Batman
you for your
Iron Man
time.
combined with this
Madara
video.
Madara
Congratulations.
wins.
You achieved your
Madara
goal.
wins high diff. Aizen wins if you go slight wank territory, but yeah, let's not do that. Anyway, thank you for your time, Nemesis. And thank you guys for
Thank you
joining.
for listening to our ramblings. Hope the episode is good.
Do you have
Well,
anything to
be
say?
sure to drop in for part 3 prediction video where we forgot something
Adios.
else.
And the last thing I'm going to say
Ciao.
is, because the art wasn't created until after the last recording, the current thing you're seeing on screen is art drawn by my son, and you can go see his Twitter in the description. I'm not going to explain the bit. You're just going to have to deal with the fact that I called him that. And you can go see his stuff in the description. Some point he'll probably open
Everyone.
commissions back up too, and you can make him draw stuff if you pay him.
It's just cool. Anyways, bye.
Bye.
I can
Adios.
finally rest.
Aizen's a loser.